We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. This is Cheryl from Dja country. My name's Cheryl Downs. I'm the host of the Beyond 90 podcast. My pronouns are she, her, and I've got a fantastic gang of people on the podcast with me today, as always, but including special guest Joey Peters, who, Joey, we are absolutely thrilled to have you on board here. I've spoken to you before. I loved it then. I'm sure the gang here is going to love it tonight as well. But if we can, maybe just jump into our first segment, and we're going to go around a little bit, do it a little bit differently than what we normally do. Firstly, I will go through the history. So today is episode 91 of Beyond 90, the pod. We coincide that with the Matildas Cap, and Joey Peters, it's kind of like you win bingo. You are Matildas Cap number 91. So, or I feel like I won bingo, because thank you so much for saying that you would come on the podcast with us. It's shows a lot to your character that you definitely want to stick around and be part of the women's football game and talking about it as well. So you're always so generous with your time, and I really appreciate it. This is where we make it not embarrassing, but hopefully exciting for you to relive a couple of the high moments. But you debuted for the Matildas in 1996. 1994 was a massive year in terms of the number of Matildas, but 96 is a great year in terms of some of the quality of the Matildas that we've seen come through as well, including yourself. And you played with the national team until 2009, which is a pretty good effort. Your grassroots club is Leeton United. So good shout out to Leeton. Are they still out there? Are they still an active club?
I'm pretty sure. I haven't been out to Riverina for a long time, and particularly Leeton. But I assume they do, because there's still a really strong competition out in Riverina, and particularly Leeton. It was they were football mad there, so it probably helped me, get a great start in football.
Thank you very much for that. To keep going through a little bit of your history, 110 international appearances, including 28 goals. As of this moment, you are the 6th highest goal scorer across A internationals for the Matildas. It was a little bit higher, but we've got a lot more Matildas playing a lot more games now as well. So we see more players coming through. In 2009, you were Australian Women's Footballer of the Year. You played in 3 World Cups, which must have been absolutely brilliant, 1999, 2003 and 2007. And you also played and scored in the 2004 Olympics in Athens. And just before we jump into some questions around the gang, I wanted to read out, we always go to our best mate, Sarah Grube, who gives us a bit of an update on the players that when she was team manager of the Matildas, she knew a lot of the players beyond what you would see in terms of the statistics. And I reached out to Grooves, and I've just titled it Ode to Joey, because it's one of the nicest things. I mean, Grooves always writes lovely things, but this is another level above lovely, and absolutely true. She's not just made stuff up. She's written some lovely stuff. So she said, one of the best Australia has ever produced. The smoothest midfielder you ever saw, superb linkage player, 360-degree vision, played beautifully off both feet, relatively quiet around camp and let her feet do the talking. She also said that you were very handy with a guitar, and I want to check in on that and see how you're doing. A salt of the earth person, and would be a world-class world beater if you were born in this era. You have famously compared your fortunes to that of Harry Kewell, who had a similar style and talent to yourself, but was born male. And he was off earning millions in the UK while you were cleaning toilets to pay your rent. #equal pay. And I just think that's beautiful what Grooves has written. She's captured that essence of hopefully who you were as a player, but also some of the differences that we see in and around the game back then and even so today. So Joey, oh geez, it tickles me pink that there's such nice words to say about you. And I think the smoothest midfielder. How would you go out there today? The old knees going okay? And let's get into the talk about the guitar as well.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, the only football I can play now is out in the backyard with my little boy, and it's about a 10x5. So I don't have to run that much. I can just basically pull off one move and shoot. But yeah, the guitar, I came from a musical family and grew up in the church. So it's usually a place where you can, develop a lot of your musical skills. Like I could play the drums, and then did some singing and guitar. We'd have one of those families that would like play music after dinner time, we'd all have a jam. But I don't know, I haven't played it for years, to be honest, because of having kids. But I'll jump on it again and I'll be like, I can still play a few tunes. So yeah, that was always a nice alternative expression to my football as well, but still creative,
I think you would be a TikTok superstar in this era. You see all the players and they've got all their social media. Imagine singing, playing guitar, playing football, playing drums. You'd have millions of followers. You probably do now, but anyway.
No, my daughters wish they did. So yeah, I don't get it. All right. No, I don't get it.
If it's okay, we'll go around the room a little bit and just get some questions from the rest of the team who I haven't introduced yet on air at the very least. But first off, Madge, did you want to throw a question out there to Joey?
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Joey. Question, like we usually have questions like when we talk to younger players who they'd like to have played with from the previous generation. So I'm thinking, I'm reading, the description and seeing you play as a great midfielder with 360-degree vision. Who out of the current Matildas would you have loved to have played with?
Oh, gee, that's a tough one. But
there's some good ones in there to choose from.
Sammy. How can you go past Sammy, And I love seeing her and Emily being egged on, because I feel like Emily is a similar type of player. To me, loves to get forward and try and score goals and try and feed Sammy. And so I was more preferable in setting up some goal scoring opportunities. So I'd love to, play Sammy in behind the defence, slip her in. And but yeah, Katrina Gorry, oh my goodness, I think she's on the right in the head, because of her performance the other night was just something special. I feel like I hadn't seen that from an Australian player, just in terms, like from a midfielder's perspective. And you mentioned that vision. She was, to face backwards and be playing forwards. For me, the deception, usually I pride myself on being able to read the game, and, even on TV, you can see where the players are basically going to, where they're going to play the ball, where's the obvious decision. But Minnie was, I couldn't pick it. And it just jumped out at me that that's the first time in a long time. And I would have actually loved to have gone up against Minnie to see.
I'm not sure your ankles would agree, but
I always loved the battle.
That's great.
I feel like Madge and Joey would be best mates after that answer. It's probably made you happy as well. Stefan, have you got a question lined up as well?
Yeah, hi Joey, lovely to chat. I follow how Aussies are doing over in the Nordic football scene, and I see in your playing history that you had a stint in Sweden with Örebro. So I guess my question for you is, given that you were there after playing in the US and for Santos, how was your stint in Sweden, and how do you compare with your playing time in those other countries and as well as here?
Yeah, I appreciate that question, Stefan, and your research there. It was a strange experience, to be honest. I really felt comfortable playing at home, and I felt, with the National League back then, it was the Ansett Summer Series. I played the first season of the W League, but I was so comfortable at feeling like, I'm, one of the best players here. I just felt like, I could really dominate a game. Going over to particularly Sweden, I found like that was the most difficult experience for me. maybe, I mean, Brazil, there was still the language and cultural, it wasn't a cultural barrier. Brazil, it was so affording of football. It was just amazing. But I was also there with another former teammate from my American team in Charlotte. So Sweden, going on my own, just living on my own, it was, I couldn't understand them at all, even though they tried to speak English a bit for me. Their English is amazing, but they're so paranoid of it. I had Pia Sundhage at the time, who's coaching Brazil now. She was the coach, and she was great. I think all the, it just really challenged me, because I just felt a bit out of my comfort zone, whereas I wasn't actually used to that. I felt always where I went, I was like, yep, I'm dominant here. And but that was really challenging time for me, actually. I would have to say it was my most challenging experience.
Right. And were many other Aussies going over to that part of the world at around that time?
Yeah, actually, it's especially Denmark, Alison Foreman, who you probably can still talk about, she's still over there running basically the Dana Cup, world famous youth tournament there. She and Carol Vincent, another former Matilda, and quite a few girls were heading over to is Denmark Scandinavia? Sorry.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. So, that had actually been probably the most popular place to go. I think Shez and Sunny were going to Japan, and then, the US had opened up. Julie Murray did wonderfully there, and Di Alagich. But, yeah, to then go to Sweden, there was kind of a move to go, especially from Denmark to Sweden. Katie Gill ended up going there too. So I was probably lucky to get a foot in. It was just who you knew, back then. You really had to be in the know, in the circle, to get a chance. But yeah, so we've got quite a long history of Aussies playing in Scandinavia, and it's great that it's continuing.
It is. Thank you.
Very good. How about you, Eric? Given that Madge had one question, Stefan had two. I don't know if Eric's going to throw in three, but we'll start with one.
Okay, so we've spoken about the guitar. How often were you asked, if at all, by your teammates to entertain all of you with your musical skills? And did you have any other teammates that were as musical as you?
Thanks, Eric. It's nice to think about. We actually made a team song.
Ooh.
And we sung it before the games, and I, would get on the guitar and play it. The coach,
do you remember it? Can you sing it now?
Oh, geez, I'm not singing it now, no. But I'm. What is it? We are Australia. Oh yeah. I can still remember it, but I'm not singing it. And no, that was fun though. We played that quite often until the coach thought it was too warm and fuzzy before a game. So I was like, what? Anyway, I felt it was a nice touch. But yeah, other musos in the team. Yeah. Oh, wow. I wasn't thinking that this would be kind of the questions you'd ask, Eric. You really stumped me. I know that Savette Uzenla came in one camp towards the end of my career, and she played the violin, and I just thought, oh, that's amazing. So she was probably the only one I can kind of think off the top of my head. Oh yes, another muso. So there wasn't many, but a lot thought that they could sing, but oh geez, you wouldn't want to hear it.
We've heard the national anthem being sung.
Yep. There you go.
I think we'll have to try and get those the song, or at least the lyrics, and throw them into the Matildas active team. Maybe they can reinvigorate it and get more people singing about it. And I'm just thinking of, if Groobs was a team manager at the time, I've hung out with Groobs quite a bit. We've played guitar together. Her much better than me. I'm sure she can sing a little bit as well. So actually, she sang at her own wedding. So yeah, Groobs may have joined in some of that entertainment as well.
Awesome. I sung at Bubs' wedding. That was really fun. Melissa Barbieri.
Oh,
The whole group of it. That was cool.
do you remember what you sang?
It was like a U2 song, I think. Everlasting love. I don't know. Yeah,
I'm
it's
loving
getting
this
too
pod.
long now, guys. I'm sorry. I have to do my own
Eric.
research on my own life.
Eric, did you have another question that you wanted to throw in there, or are you happy with just the one?
Something a bit more conventional, because Joey, you mentioned playing in just the first season of the W League, and it was Newcastle, right? So can you remember, was there much of a feeling of excitement among players such as yourself that had been in Matildas and played in the Ansett Summer Series to be part of a new competition?
Yes and no. We were used to it being, revamped quite a few times. And, I think it was just kind of another, okay, they're revamping the league again. But, I guess it was good. It was seen as a bit more of a higher status because it was, in line with the men's league. Probably the Ansett Summer Series was actually probably the biggest breakthrough for me that we'd had in the women's game, that it went from the old National League to, actually having a sponsor, the Ansett Summer Series. And then, the actual excitement of not just having a 1 week nationals titles that we'd have traditionally, like actually having a full summer of games. I mean, we complain now that it's not a home and away series, complete with 2 rounds, and rightly so. But it's always had that exciting flavour of being over summer, that it's, this short buzz of a series of games, and we loved that. And I think, the W League was the progression on that. Unfortunately, I feel like it hasn't been much progression from that time, 14 seasons ago. So I know they're still working hard on what should the W League look like, and it probably makes sense that it's more of a development league now, because the better players are going various. But then again, you look at someone like Katrina Gorry. Sorry, I can't help talking about her tonight, but for her to be one of those, in the W League or your National League, to be a dominant player, I think we don't value that enough. We think, you've always got to push yourself and go somewhere, where you're going to be pushed. Well, I think both environments are equally important. So for me, and I see someone like Katrina Gorry coming home to play, having an outstanding season, confidence, just amazing, taking, having a little bit more time to be creative, and then, going overseas to challenge yourself. I think it's actually still a nice balance. But anyway, I've gone on a little bit there, Eric, but thanks for bringing that up.
Good questions. Thank you, everyone. I'm probably going to skip my own questions and we'll just keep on with the pod at the moment. We move into hot topics and news of the week, and I'll just breeze through these quickly so we can actually talk about the Matildas games, which one that's happened, one which is coming up, and a couple of young Matildas games as well. But in the news, a 6-part Matildas docu-series has been announced to play or be produced on Disney+. I don't currently have Disney+, but I'll be getting it once that happens. And then a couple of signings as well. We had been talking about how Emily Van Egmond was the only player at the moment in the NWSL, which has traditionally been a bit of a hotspot for Aussies to play in. Brilliant news during the week that we saw Alex Chidiac has signed with Racing Louisville, which is fantastic to see her head to Kentucky. And then Chelsea Dawber as well has headed off to the Chicago Red Stars. I'm not sure if there's anyone else who's moved while I wasn't looking, and I think there may have been. Stephen, was there an announcement of someone else who's moved into, or was that just me leading you astray?
Not that I can recall, Eric.
No. I have faith in my group chats to keep me posted. If I miss it, I reckon someone else will get it. So I don't think there's been another Aussie going to the NWSL.
Oh, well, will we see more people moving around soon as well? Because we talk about the Dub being a development league, and it is, but we had some terrific players there throughout the season. So we'll keep an eye on any more movements. Let's jump into, if we don't mind, maybe the Matildas. Madge, do you want to take us through it?
Yeah, well, what a night up in Townsville. It was a really, really hot day. So I got in early and was walking around Townsville. I think a few of us got caught not quite knowing the streets very well and ending up walking. And we were only walking, and we were dead by the time we were getting around pre-game. But yeah, I mean, what can you say? It was a game that we absolutely dominated. All credit to New Zealand, though. I mean, I think if we're going to rave about Katrina Gorry, I think we also have to rave about Victoria Essen in the New Zealand goal. She
and Claudia Bunge.
And Claudia Bunge as well, yes.
Yeah. Yes, so Madge, can't miss a victory play.
Melbourne victory. Just saying.
Absolutely put up a wall of defence. But I was just looking up the stats, and I think it was something like 30-something shots to 3 to the Matildas. I think we had 15 shots on target, and Victoria Essen had like 11 saves, and some of them were absolutely spectacular, none more so than the one that she clawed out from Claire Polkinghorne's head. Claire was already celebrating, but no, not to be. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it was an odd game. It had all of the attack going the Matildas' way, and just could not put that ball in the back of the net. I mean, like some of the chances. I mean, Hayley Raso had a couple of really good opportunities where maybe she runs like an absolute cannonball, and just that first touch, or the first or second touch, just not quite there for her. And another standout player, Steph Catley, was just putting in cross after cross.
Victorian, just a Victorian there. Just
I'm not forgetting them. I'm not forgetting them.
Sounds like Cheryl needs her own national team.
I think there was a Newey player that scored the equaliser, wasn't there?
Yeah, Van Egmond, correct.
Yeah,
from Newcastle. Good old Newey. So yeah, but it was absolute pandemonium in the final 2 minutes of the game. But I mean, the Townsville crowd, look, they were into it the entire time as well. So I think that was fantastic. Like we were riding every pass and all of the chances that were coming through. So it was, I think, a great show to put on for the first time up in North Queensland. And yes, I'm just going to rave about Katrina Gorry all day long. We've been saying it for a long time. Well, I've been saying it, and other people have as well, just really wanting someone who's comfortable on the ball in midfield, who can like control that ball and like Joey was saying before, being able to play in to the front, to behind, and not just making the obvious pass all the time. And sometimes, I guess, as a Brisbane fan, you get used to seeing that Minnie does those little deceptive turns all the time. It's like you'll go, oh, she's got 3 players around her. Oh no, she's just decided to turn out of that. And it's the type of quality that she's got. And I think my favourite pass of the game, it unfortunately didn't end up with a goal, but she did that killer pass from deep in defence through to Sam Kerr, who then I think almost first time crossed it to Alanna Kennedy, who just couldn't quite put it away. But that type of ball, that's your killer ball. That's the type of vision that I think the Matildas really want to see some more of. So I think nothing but I think lots of positives. Of course, people will be unhappy with the finishing, but you've just got to say that's an off night on finishing. You've got a Sam Kerr in the team. You give her that many chances again. More often than not, more of those are going to be going in the back of the net. But what did you guys think, Eric? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I tend to agree. You do get those nights in front of goal where it does seem like the ball has a mind of its own, doesn't want to go in. Thought we could have seen more subs. I do believe you didn't use the 6 that Tony Gustafsson didn't use the 6 that you're allowed to in international friendlies. I did kind of wonder what the point was of giving Courtney Vine 5 minutes at the end. Of course, Courtney Vine, Cheryl, she's a Queenslander to me. I don't care that she was born in Victoria. She's a Queenslander. Peninsula Power was a junior club.
I'm holding that.
Yeah, but if you hold on to birthplace, you also have to give give up Karakuni Cross, who was born in Queensland.
I
so
just hold it all.
You
if
just
you've
hold it
set
all.
Foot in Victoria. That's my criteria.
Yes. So it's like the Queensland State of Origin rugby league team. Now it's like, well, everywhere is Queensland. Yes. Now, so yeah, I see friendly games as chances to try something new. I don't really understand why you didn't use all the subs, but I'm not a coach. So, but hopefully we see a bit more tomorrow in Canberra, or tomorrow at the time of recording, at least. And also, hopefully it'll be a bit easier for everyone, at least in Canberra at night. We might have the opposite problem of being too cold, but to wait and see.
Bring your winter woolies, Eric.
Huh?
Bring your winter woolies, your coat.
I'm an experienced NPL commentator. I know what I'm doing. Yeah. Trust me.
Joey, a couple of thoughts from you on the game. I'm not sure if you were at the game or if you listened to the commentary. What did you think of the game? What could have gone better? What went really well in your opinion? And maybe what did you think of the commentary as well? Because we know that we get to hear you on the air quite well. When I say quite a bit, I mean, it's good when we get to hear you on there. I'm sure it could be more often, but a couple of questions for you.
Thanks, Cheryl. I've just got to say, first up for me was the never say die attitude coming to the fore. It's almost like you get into, I was going to say it's usually 5 minutes before 90 minutes, but when the 90 minutes is up, I'm like, right, here we go, never say die time. And I did that as well with the South Korean game, to be honest, and I thought we were going to come through there. It's amazing how I thought it was similar types of games in terms of how well I thought we played in possession and defensively as well, comparing the two games. Obviously, New Zealand, you could say, is not as quality opposition as, some of the better teams in the world. But still, I was super impressed with not only the never say die, those goals at the end. I was just laughing in the end. I was just like, yes. And you talk about commentary. I was quite disappointed, actually, that Harps didn't know that it was never say die territory. He's kind of like, I don't know what just happened then. And I was like, man, it was never say die. Are you kidding me? So, I think, to have that, I love that that's part of our culture now. Because it's almost like, and you almost want to keep it a secret too, because you don't want other teams to realise that, hang on, when it's 90 minutes, this is when the Matildas, they're going to throw everything at you, and it's almost like the other team thinks, we've got it, and I'm that excited about the never say die thing too, because I was part of that Women's World Cup team in 2007 when Cheryl Salisbury scored in the last kick of the game. It was like, when we scored the other night, the second goal, and then they kicked off and it was literally, that's the end. It was the last kick of the game. There's nothing better than that. And I love that. And I love that they scored and won the game, because a lot of people have been smashing us, like you said, Madge, about the finishing. And for me, this is where I wish that commentators could take us to that next level in Aussie football of actually understanding, like you guys have perfectly articulated, sometimes that happens in football. It doesn't go in. Who hasn't known a game where someone has just literally dominated and just hasn't been able to get the ball in? It actually happened, I think, in the 2010 Asian Cup. The girls would say the game against, I don't even think it was the final. It might have been the final or the semi-final, where I think it was Japan. Yeah, it was hitting the crossbar. And the girls just knew, oh, my goodness, this is our day. We're just getting all the luck. And that's football, But when people start saying, oh, we need to change the team, we need to get rid of the coach, because in the end, I'm not a big stats person, because I love the context of the game. I think it's very important to have a holistic, view of what's happened in the game, not just the stats. But the best stat that I do enjoy is chances created. Because, when you chance it, and a good chance too. And we had plenty of good chances to see a goalkeeper pull off saves like that. You're going, our chances were superb. And and that's all you need is a chance like that. Now, whether it goes in or not, again, that's just the mystery of football. Like Sam Kerr, has been the golden boot in every freaking league, and she misses a couple of sitters for us, and we bow out of the tournament, and we, could have lost again last night. So, but people, I actually haven't heard much, Cheryl, about, what have people been saying after this game. Are they going, oh, yes, we played really well because we won, and
yes,
still smashing the team because they lost against South Korea and bowed out in the semi-finals, quarterfinals? Well, it was practically the same game, guys, in terms of how many chances we created. And just my last thing, Cheryl, would be that to see, even though it was New Zealand, see the one-touch play that was so cohesive on the flanks, but especially in the build-up. That was something special. Now, if Tony G is deliberate in setting that up, I'm not sure if it was just, you play the rhythm of the game. Sometimes it's one touch, sometimes it's two, but they were playing a one-touch rhythm, which really impresses me because, again, in terms of what we need to improve on as the Matildas, I think, is the speed of play when it comes against these big European oppositions. We see when we played France or the Dutch team and we got beat, for me, it was because we just were too slow in our decision-making. Like France, we think we were pressing back when we played France a few years ago. We were pressing. We were amazing at pressing. But you look at France and it was just like we were just closing them down as they normally would, and they would just play the ball past us because they're used to such that high speed of play. And for me, it was just brilliant to see the Matildas take it up that notch. And I was just really super impressed with the performance. Can't wait for tomorrow.
I love it. Brilliant. I think for me as well, Steph, and throwing to you on this one, and then you can lead us into the young Matildas as well, is the goal that came of one of the three shots that New Zealand had. And I think Ellen did that one touch. And what an absolutely beautiful goal that she managed to score. So, I feel like I always barrack for the Matildas 100%, but given the exposure that we've had to more New Zealand players over the course of the dub this season, it was nice to see a couple of them out there, and also in particular nice to see Alan score that top goal.
It was a special goal, wasn't it? Yes. My player of the game for both squads was Claudia Bunge. I thought she was amazing in the second efforts in defence were just incredible. So, but I was very happy to see Minnie comfortable as a six. The distribution is so good. And just noting that she played as a six in front of Polks out of Valsnes in Norway a couple of years ago. So she's had a bit of a run there. So, yeah, it's really nice to see.
That's what I loved. Sorry, guys, if I could jump in. That's what I love to see too, was that, so you got that one-touch play down the flanks, and then it comes to someone like Minnie that can, again, change that tempo. So slow it down a bit, do like you say, turn on a sixpence and go somewhere else. That combination again of, I don't know if it, again, I hope it's deliberate from Tony G, but I'm not sure if we'll be able to see that again in a game, for it to be so cohesive and complementary, the way that we had such a variety of play, which is, again, it's kind of new for the Matildas. They're used to just seeing them, go down the flanks, maybe take a bit too long to get into the opposition final third. So, but the other night, I don't know if I'm getting too excited, guys. Is it worthy, do you think? Can we repeat it?
Well, that's the thing. We'll be able to see that in a couple of days, won't we? That'll be exciting. One day, a couple of days. What am I talking about?
I just did want to note the sad news with Ria Percival doing her ACL in the game, early in the game, which was that was confirmed today. So that's really tough news heading into a home World Cup. But hopefully she's got time to recover and get back in time for the World Cup.
Yeah, good shout out. Stephen, the young Matildas have also had a couple of games, and fortunately for you, they're doing it in your home territory. So you've been to the games. Have you got some key thoughts from those matches?
I do, yes. It's been 5 years since I've been here, so it was a real treat to get out to both of those. Yeah, so it was our first game in a couple of years as the young Matildas. And it's the first time the young football ferns had played non-Oceania opposition in a friendly at that level. So it was quite an occasion. Gemma Lewis is looking after the Phoenix coach is looking after the young football ferns.
Yep.
And looking at our extended squad, Leah Blaney brought in 8 extra players from the A-League Women's who'd done well during the season. What was remarkable to me was the number of players who we didn't get to see during game time. I guess it's understandable, though. The idea, I guess, is to bring the whole squad together and to maybe have a bit of a look at the players who don't get out in front of the, in those sort of precious situations as often. So I'll just name some of them. Players we didn't see: Sasha Grove, Riley Henry, Sally James, Darcy Malone, Claudia Mahochik, Jessica Nash, Charlie Rule. Hayley Taylor-Young had a hammy issue, as I understand it, Miranda Templeman, and we only saw a little bit of Hannah Lowry. So that was sort of interesting for me that we didn't get to see that talent, but the talent that we did see was fantastic. So
it's an interesting point there, Stephen, about we're starting to talk about, players don't get a run and it'd be nice to play more subs. And I would usually agree with that. I like to think, the other sides of things as well. And I kind of like how we don't necessarily just hand out caps like that, and giving that sense of, you've got to earn it. And this isn't just everyone's going to get a go. I'm a big advocate for kids and youth football. Everyone should get a go. But when you're at that highest level, I can't help feel like, we could do that a little bit more. Just if you were to come into a camp, then that is an absolute privilege. And I think a lot of the players, I feel like they're starting to get that sense. Like, this is a real privilege to come into camp and then to be on the bench. And then if I happen to get some game time, you hear Chloe Lagarde say it, if I happen to be out there, I'm just going to do my best. And, they've got this wonderful mindset now, rather than, I think previously we've been too quick to say, let's just hand you a cap. And a lot of this, when kids are getting selected so early, again, that's why I'm against some of the youth initiatives where we select players. They get things too easy too early. So that's just another side of things there.
Yeah. So comparing with my experience 5 years ago, that was out of the AIS grounds. So there was no seating. There were about 100 spectators standing around the field. Gary Van Egmond was coach. I remember Ellie Carpenter played centre back. Grace Marr was captain. There was no streaming back then. It was hard to find out about the games. It was actually one of my first ever contacts with groups, because I'd heard that there was a game on, but couldn't find any details. So that was actually the first time I reached out to groups, I think, having seen a post on social media, and I asked her about where the game was on and what time and that sort of thing. So that was memorable from that point of view. So the streaming decision for these games came quite late in the piece as well for these two games. So we've still got a way to go. I mean, the crowd, we would have had, I guess, up to 1,000 people at both the games. So obviously a few more people, but it's still for national team, a game of that caliber. I think there's still a way to go with getting word out there and getting people along, especially when the product's so good, right? So, so as far as the games themselves, there was a comfortable 5-1 victory to the young Matildas in the first game of Wednesday night. So we had Daniela Galich, Hannah Jones, and Sarah Hunter running the show there in midfield. So they were very influential in that game. And I thought that Carly Johnson had a terrific second half up front. And Janaya Dos Santos also impressed me up front in the first half in that game. And it was a cheeky Sheridan Gallagher backheel goal, if you recall, right at the end of the game. So the New Zealand scorer was Charlotte Lancaster, who put in a crack of a left foot chip. And Chloe Lincoln and Emma Ilioski from Canberra United were very good in both the games, I thought.
Sorry.
Yep, just pause for a tick and say thanks very much for your time, Joey, on the podcast. Really appreciated it. And hopefully we'll get you back another day and we can talk more football with you. But have a great night and see you later.
Thanks so much, guys. Yeah, the kids are driving me nuts now. But yeah, keep it going. You guys are doing a great job. Thank you.
Thanks, Joey.
Bye.
Thanks, Joey. Game 2 was a very different affair. It was a 1-1 draw, and that was also the halftime score, and it was a much tougher contest. The junior football Ferns had 7 changes to their starting lineup, and the big one for me was the inclusion of Mona Walker at centre back. Her composure there really.
Yes, that is what I like to hear.
Yeah, it just really bonded the entire back line, and it lifted the entire back four. Her composure and the way she was able to get them as a group working together. They were a bit more physical in this game too. So the contest between Marissa van der Meer and Sheridan Gallagher was a cracker to watch. But they were more physical across the park. For us, I guess at the start there were only Jamila Rankin and Aideen Keane called into the starting lineup compared to the first game. Sarah Hunter opened the scoring with a terrific strike from distance. Well worth seeing.
That was a lovely shot.
Yeah, it was amazing, wasn't it?
It was very nice.
Yeah. And I think she was my player of both games, the series. She's the most influential player across both the games and a constant threat throughout the games. And Millie Clegg, who I thought was very good for the young football Ferns, was very good in the second game and replied 5 minutes out from half time, getting a through ball, getting around a defender and tucking the ball away very nicely. Something I really liked to see after the game was Jitka Klimkova, the football Ferns coach, getting the group together straight after the game and addressing them with a lot of passion. And I just love seeing that because it really gives them the bigger picture of what they're aiming for at the end of the day. So and providing that connection between the two squads.
Nice shout out. And ex-head coach of Canberra United as well. So there's an extra. It's all about Canberra, this pod.
It is. So it was, lovely. Speaking of Canberra, the entire Canberra United squad was there cheering on Chloe and Emma Ilioski too. So that was just so lovely to see as well. But but nice to see Klimkova, setting that up for a team and her, obviously they were hanging on every word. So it was nice to see. But yeah, terrific two-game series. Very much enjoyed it.
Thank you for the wrap-up. Madge, Eric, any extra thoughts on the young Matildas games, or do we want to go around the world now?
I saw the first one, but yes, I think I can only echo the what I saw in the battle between Sheridan Gallagher and Marissa van der Meer. I haven't been able to watch the second. Yes, I think I tweeted Marissa van der Meer is getting the full Sheridan Gallagher experience. We all know what that means. So it was, of course, the aim is that trying to find players for senior international football. And yes, we all talk about the skill, but it's also very physical. So good to see them getting all the players getting used to that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just echo Stefan's comments about I thought Sarah Hunter was great in both games, and that goal in the second game was absolutely fabulous. So it's great to see that killer strike in front of goal.
Is it too early to say, and I'm usually not the person who puts that out there, but is she the real deal? And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way.
My goodness.
Eric,
you're many years too early with this. Relax. Just relax.
But I think the quality, she does seem to be mature on the ball in the games that I've seen. And I think that strike that she had is not something that she's done once. She's done it, before. So I think, I'm not saying she's our next Sam Kerr. I'm not saying that. And, just just really seeing some strong qualities from her as a player. And I think the more time that she gets in and around that level of football is a really good thing for her. And then when we get to the under-20 World Cup, it will be interesting to see the form that the young Matildas bring to those games. And I think we could be, it's one way to get more people involved in the brand of the Matildas as well. Like you said, Stefan, if there weren't that many people at the game watching, and if there wasn't really enough notice or a lot of notice about live streaming of the games, we need to think about, well, hang on a minute, there's an under-20 World Cup coming up. You'll be able to have access to watch that. Australia will be playing. Yes, there's some amazing competition there, and it might be really quite a challenge for us, but we'll still get access to see some of those players play when you don't normally get to see them play that often.
I think also, Cheryl, the point that you're making about the importance about being involved in these sorts of tournaments and in the junior tournaments and the young tournaments, haven't been able to really get into the World Cup stages of a lot of these youth tournaments. And I think that results in us and fans looking at young players who are only 17 and going, oh, can they crack it in the Matildas? Whereas maybe the first step and one of our biggest goals should be trying to more consistently get our youth teams into the highest level of competition and really seeing how these young players can perform there in a consistent basis, instead of that focus that we've had with quite a few players, like your Sam Kerrs, your Caitlin Fords, your Ellie Carpenters, and like, let's just take the player that we think is going to be great and pop them into the Matildas and hope that they do well. So all the more exposure, and both in playing and also for fans to be able to watch these youth tournaments, I think is the better.
Thanks very much, Badge. All right, let's move around the world, and we'll give a bit of a special shout out to Eric as well, because he has come pretty hot off the press of one of these international friendly matches where he was commenting on the match between Philippines and Fiji, and the match prior to that, their match prior to that as well. But Eric, did you want to take us through the international friendlies? And I will say we've had some audio trouble, but hopefully all is well. If it gets a bit too dodgy, just turn off your video and we'll see how we go.
Okay, well, I like being proactive, so for those of you listening on podcast, I've just turned my video off. So we'll get to the two Philippines-Fiji games in a bit, but just some results which I believe, was it you, Cheryl, kindly dropped in the pod for us. We have India defeating Egypt 1-0, and then India defeated Jordan 1-0. I'll have to update that. Which is, of course, the battle of the two most recent hosts of the Women's Asian Cup. 1-1 draw between Spain and Brazil. Argentina defeated Chile 1-0 twice. Canada 2, Nigeria 0. South Korea 3, Vietnam 0. USA 9, Uzbekistan 1. Ecuador 0, Paraguay 1. And Colombia 2, Venezuela 2. So that's all the friendlies. Now on to, of course, what Cheryl alluded to. I was incredibly blessed to be a live stream commentator hired by the Philippines Football Federation for two games that the Philippines played against Fiji. And don't worry, I haven't just flown back, because I am so lucky that both those games were played in Western Sydney. So there's a link where one of the Wanderers owners is also heavily involved and a much valued benefactor of the Philippines women's team. So his name's Jefferson Chang. Shout out to you. Without him, none of this would be possible. So in the first game, which was on Thursday, played in absolutely awful conditions, rain and winds. Philippines defeated Fiji by 7-2. And then the game, which was, I've just come back from at the time of recording, it was Monday afternoon. Philippines then backed it up with another 8-0 win over Fiji. So the preparations starting to ramp up, and plenty of promising signs for, of course, a country that will be a World Cup debutant next year. And they also keep a lookout on Philippine socials and of course my own socials, because they're going to hang around in Sydney, the Philippines, and they've got 3 upcoming games against Tonga, 2 over the Easter weekend and 1 after that. So if you're in Western Sydney, I would like the chance to watch some women's international football. I mean, I'm sure it'll be free, so that'll be great. And also, by the way, Fiji, of course. There's some, it's good to see that they've been able to get out and travel for international football, because it's really hard for those Pacific Island nations. But Fiji, of course, preparing for the Oceania Nations Cup in July, where they will be battling for the one playoff spot Oceania has for the intercontinental playoff part of the World Cup qualifiers, where they could play anyone, a team from South America, a team from Africa, or a team like, say, the Republic of Ireland, who are currently second in their qualifying group. So yes, that's the international friendlies. So do we want to go to
just on those international friendlies as well? For me, interesting to point out the result between Spain and Brazil. I mean, a lot of the countries that played against there are not necessarily top tier, but we did see Spain and Brazil play out to a 1-1 draw, which I think is not a surprising result. It's just a result to keep track of. But then the other one with USA, Uzbekistan scored a goal against them. And I want to know how that happened. I didn't see it. And I think that's interesting. And I don't know the squad that went out there for the US, but it is great. They must have been absolutely, excited about that one.
There's a lot of Americans demanding to know how that goal happened as well, I reckon. But yes. So, good. It was an odd score. Yeah, 9-1 is good for them. At least they got something. They got something for their social media and whatever. It's not like, of course, it's always an honor to play for your country, but getting a goal as well, I mean, that's the best bit, of course.
Yep. Cool. All right. And I'll just quickly talk about the FA Cup semi-final, which hasn't yet been played, but I'm telling you to get ready to watch it this Saturday and Sunday at pretty reasonable times. So 9:15 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on Saturday. Sorry if I didn't already say that. West Ham United are playing against Manchester City. So you've got a choice of 4 Aussies in those matches, assuming all of the Aussies are back on deck. They will be flying back pretty soon after the match, I'm sure, but whether or not they get all the game time. And then on Sunday, the second of the semi-final matches, 9:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, we have Arsenal v Chelsea. So that means we've got the chance to see potentially another 4 Australians or Matildas playing there as well, depending on what happens. You can watch that on FA Player. I haven't absolutely checked, but I'm pretty sure that's the deal. And the final will be played on the 15th of May. So it should be guaranteed that there would be an Aussie in both sides of the final, and there'll be an Aussie winner. In other news as well, and Eric, I don't know if you wanted to take us through these results. I've just taken some screen grabs from Europe, where we've had their World Cup qualifier matches. So it's been a massive fixture. Yeah,
so that's why, and you will notice in the international friendly list that I read, not many European nations, because of course they have World Cup qualifiers for next year. And most of the groups have an even number teams. So there's I think only 3 nations that had the bye, and my beloved Ireland was one of them. So let's see. What strike? This is not the greatest pod content. I want to see what I want to talk about. Norway 5, Kosovo 1. Norway's a good team. I really like them from the 2019 World Cup, so they're a great team to watch. They're so technically gifted. So looking forward to seeing them next year. Vesna Milivojevic. I've commentated out. I'm tired from commentary. Vesna Milivojevic's Serbia defeated Israel 4-0. What else is noteworthy?
Sweden defeated Georgia 15-0.
Yeah. Ireland put 11 past them, so that does show the kind of inequality in international women's football sometimes. Some of you may remember England putting 20 past Latvia. So yes, that is kind of the challenges involved, especially with midweek internationals where players, especially that are not full-time professionals, get time off work, because I believe Latvia did not send anywhere near a full-strength squad when they lost 20-0 to England. So, and I suspect that some similar things have happened here, because I think Sweden only beat Georgia 4-0 the first time around. So Let's see. Malta 0, Denmark 2. So, we know about the Danish quality. Stefan knows that as well. So, in a sense, good job by Malta to keep them to 2-0. What else is interesting? Wales 1, France 2. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's my European women's national team ignorance, but I'm a bit surprised that France only won that goal. And the last one I caught my Germany 3, Portugal 0. So, pretty standard result for Germans.
So I've actually got some intel on this. Not that's really
yes,
intel.
yes, please.
Not that's really intel.
Please.
It's just that someone else does the work. So Teddy from Matildas Active Support keeps a good eye on how the qualifying for the World Cup is going. So apparently, in this week's upcoming games, we've got the potential for Sweden, Spain, Germany, France, and England to qualify for the World Cup. Yeah. So if Sweden, Spain, Germany, and everyone in the groups. They'll qualify. Yeah. England need to win plus have Austria lose, apparently. So
yeah, so I mean that's it. So as much as I would like to think otherwise, Sweden heavy favorites against Ireland. I'm so scared of that game.
But more the merrier. So we're starting to fill out the the lotto balls for the draw for the World Cup slowly but surely.
Very nice. Now, Stefan, there may have been no matches in your beloved Nordic countries, but has it been cold in Canberra and replicating some of the weather that they might see over there? Has it been cold in
Canberra? I'm sorry.
It's actually been pretty nice.
I got sunburnt standing outside watching the Young Matildas game yesterday, so it hasn't been that cold.
That was unseasonably warm at that game, so it was very nice out there. And even the game on Wednesday night, we got a bit of light rain, but it was fairly good temperature. So, but yes,
apparently it's going to be cold tomorrow, though. That's what my group chat, just like my last 20 messages, bring thermal. So back to normal.
Yep. Shall I go through quickly the round 2?
Yes, please.
Capital football results. So the top 3 expected teams to fight out the league honours this year all won handsomely again this week. In fact, all the games in both the rounds have all been quite one-sided except for one game this round, which I'll touch on in a minute. But I was out at McKellar Park at a very lush McKellar Park.
I miss McKellar Park.
Oh, me too.
Yes. It was great. It's always great to be there. Belconnen United won 5-1 over Gungahlin United. So the interesting thing there was a couple of ex-Gungahlin United players playing for Belconnen this season after Belconnen lost a raft of players to Olympic as part of the shake-up of player movements. But it was Gungahlin were 1-0 up at half-time, but it was all Belconnen in the second half, and they came away with a 5-1 win. In the close game I mentioned, West Canberra Wanderers 1-0 over Canberra United Academy down at Melrose Synthetic. Nikita Perry, who was in the junior Matildas camp, came off at half-time, and Hattie Cram scored for the Wanderers just before half-time, and they were able to hang on for the victory. Yep. So it's a good win to them. Canberra Olympic, 6-0 over Toowoomba United. So they've got a ridiculous 4 and against. And speaking of ridiculous 4s in the game, Canberra Croatia 16 over Wagga City Wanderers 0. So poor old Wagga City, they've had the toughest of starts to the year. They've had Canberra Croatia and Canberra Olympic as their first 2 games. And
stitched up.
Yeah, so they'll be hoping for a turn of the draw in the coming weeks.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Also, just my thoughts I had, it is nice to see there is one Wanderer side that can beat Canberra United. And also, while you've mentioned former Gungahlin United players, it did remind me of my favourite former Gungahlin United player, Emma Ilioski, who you mentioned earlier, who it's a bit unusual. She played a year with the Gungahlin under-16 boys team and won their Player of the Year award. So, yes.
Awesome. And no Michelle Heyman. She didn't turn out to Gungahlin. It was the Gungahlins' first game, and people were wondering, but no sign of it.
That's one of their. So Heyman watches back to steal something from the far post.
It is.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. A nice update. And we need to try and do better about our other state and territory updates if possible. We'll see how we go with that. The pod's pretty long anyway.
That's right.
See how we go.
Can I do NPL New South Wales? We only had 2 games.
Go.
Yeah. Okay. So normally there's 6 games, but because of what Stefan has so eloquently spoken about, plenty of games are postponed due to junior Matildas and young Matildas call-ups. So that got rid of the Football New South Wales Institute versus Manly United, and Blacktown Spartans versus Sydney University. Illawarra Stingrays versus Sydney Olympic, a different case. That was a washout because of all the rain we've had in Sydney. And just to round it off, Emerging Jets v Tigers. Northern Tigers wanted to postpone it due to young Matildas call-ups, and then the game was washed out anyway. So a bit of both. But there were 2 games. I was lucky enough to call my game survived, RPL Leichhardt versus Spirit FC. So RPL Leichhardt winning by 3-0. And that, by the way, the Sarah Hunter, one of RPS new signings, so she'll come back into what is expected to be a title challenger. So all 3 goals coming in the second half. Sophie Hoban with the first, Rihanna Policino with an early goal of the season contender for the second, and then Deborah Andela Harp with another early goal of the season contender for the third. 3-0 the final score there. Spirit did lose, as Stefan very nicely reminded me during the game, Kirsty Fenton and Sasha Grove to international duty. The other game was at it was between MacArthur Rams and Bankstown City. MacArthur Rams also looking good, having recruited players like Alex Tewin and also Lauren Kears come back for another season. And also they, not too much, only missing Darcy Malone, I think, to young Matilda's duty. They defeated Bankstown City by 3-1. This is a test of the memory. MacArthur's goals coming from Kylie Ledbrook, where we all know, Crystal Duggan and Laura Murtagh, and Bankstown City's goal scored by a player you'd remember from Adelaide United, Paige Hayward. So Bankstown City, very interesting. They've got a trio of Adelaide United players for this season, and I've bottled this again because I can only remember Emily Condon and Paige Hayward. Oh my God, I've gone to the
go through the Queensland NPLW results while you're looking it up.
Go for it.
Okay, now actually, I've got 10 seconds away.
It started. I can get through them quick. And I'm not across who scored or
Emma Stanbury. I'm so sorry, Emma. Emma Stanbury's the third Adelaide United player, and I really should have remembered that.
Well done. So Queensland NPL first round of the season. Queensland Lions look like they're looking strong again this season. Sorry?
Without Shay Connors, who's gone to RPL.
Yes.
Sydney.
But they did pick up Aisha Norrie. So they're pretty good at
signing
from Gold Coast.
So they got her from Gold Coast. So that's a really good signing. And they've got Chelsea Blissett back up. So she has played for the Lions before.
Thieving.
Mm-hmm.
So they won 5-1 against Brisbane Olympic.
Chelsea Blissett's from New South Wales.
But she has played for the Queensland Lions
in
before.
Victoria.
So have I. By that logic, is Denise Sullivan from Western Sydney? Or sorry, Madge.
Let's stay on topic.
Go on.
Next game, Sunshine Coast Wanderers won away to Moreton Bay United, and Eastern Suburbs 3 over South United 2. So I'll be sure to actually look everything up when I'm not away in Townsville and Canberra for the first round. Second round, I will be well more prepared for the Queensland NPLW.
Yes.
Very good.
Did you have postponements due to international Did Queensland have postponements due to international call-ups as well?
Well, I do wonder because there was it looks like there was a scheduled game between Capalaba and the QAS that didn't go ahead yet.
QAS, that's the candidate for international call-ups, of course. Yes.
Yep. Queens of the week. I'll kick off and just say I want to have a secret queen that I can't announce at the moment, but it will be announced at the Women's Football Writers Festival. So in advance of that, you are my queen of the week. All will be revealed tomorrow. If you're not going to be at the Writers Festival, there's probably going to be some social coming out on it as well. So keep an eye on that. And if all else fails, I will come back on the pod next week and tell you my queen of the week.
Or just jump on the Twitter, Facebook, and post it. I mean, you've got options. You've got all the passwords, Cheryl.
I'm building the suspense. Eric, you're queen, king, or non-binary person of the week, or a joker if you so see fit.
No, I've always got a queen. I rarely delve into negative unless I'm talking about Western Sydney Wanderers. Anyway, so now my queen of the week, we're going to the second tier of New South Wales football, New South Wales League One Women's. Don't ask me why it's called that. And Blacktown City goalkeeper Kiara Roche injured her wrist, couldn't take her place in goal, but she did was named on the bench for the Blacktown City game on Sunday. Then she came on as a late substitute up front as a centre forward and did what every goalkeeper dreams of. She banged a couple of goals away, scored twice to help Blacktown City defeat Interlions 4-1. So Kiara O'Shea, you are my queen of the week. Goalkeepers showing the forwards how it's done. Isn't that great?
Sounds beautiful. Stefan, queen of the week from you.
Yes, it's the Sarah Hunter and Joey Peters pod, isn't it? I can't go past Sarah Hunter for bossing it in those two Matildas games.
Okay.
And I'm so predictable. I'm ridiculously predictable. My queen of the week is Katrina Gorry. It's making her Matildas return after, I don't know how the Matildas account posted. It's been a lot of days.
It was a 700
and
six,
something.
7, 8. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yep.
So fantastic to see her back. It's Katrina's Wonderland and we're all living in it.
Thank you. I like that. I actually thought it might be a clean sweep for Minnie this time around, but it's good to see that there are other players out there who are
people
goals in one way or another.
Keep a wide berth. She was going to be mine.
Yeah, that's.
Thank you very much for that. As we finish up, I thought it might be prudent to talk about some predictions for tomorrow night, or whenever you're listening to it, then you'll be able to work out whether or not we were right or wrong, given the interesting result that we saw in the first game for the Matildas against New Zealand. Stefan, did you want to go first and just throw out a prediction?
3-0 to us.
Madge?
I'm going to go 2-0 to us.
Eric is going to say something obscure.
Something weird? Yes, I am. So Steph Catley to score with her right foot.
Oh,
I'm
please.
not giving a score, but just now that would be funny. Have any of us seen Steph score with her right foot?
To be honest,
We'll
I
have
don't pay
to-
attention.
We will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
Yes.
so sure about the feet. I just care if they score, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter which foot. Apart from all left foot goals are beautiful. I get that. My prediction, I actually think Stefan might be on the money with 3-0. I think there'll be a bit more of a gap. There were so many chances created, as Joey talked about, that I think that could be the change. But I actually thought that New Zealand played a very smart game against Australia, and they were very unfortunate to be in the game for so long and then to lose at that last moment. But what an exciting game of football. I think that finishes up the pod for us tonight. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Those 3 people who listened to us live, all of the people who listened to us on Joy Radio, Clutch Radio, and to those of you who subscribe and download our podcast, thank you very much. We'll be back next week with more talk about football, including the discussion around the Matildas' second match against New Zealand and more international football. So stay with us. Talk to you soon. Bye.